माशी सिफारतकारी के हवाले से दो रोज़ा कॉन्फ्रेंस जो है वो आज से इस्लामाबाद में हो रही है। कॉन्फ्रेंस में बराह रास्त बैरूनी सरमायाकारी बरामदात में कैसे इजाफा किया जा सकता है और बहुत सारे ऐसे उमूर पर गौर किया जा रहा है। वज़ीर ख़ारजा शाह महमूद कुरैशी, वज़ीर ख़जाना असद उमर, मुशीर तिजारत जो हैं वज़ीर आज़म के अब्दुल रज़ाक दाऊद और इस्लाहात के लिए वज़ीर आज़म के मुशीर डॉक्टर अशरत हुसैन इसमें मौजूद हैं। तकरीब का अहवाल जो है वो आपसे शेयर करते हैं।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अब्दुल रज़ाक Dawood Sahib, Advisor on Commerce, Textile Industry and Production. Dr. Ishaq Hussain, Advisor on Institutional Reforms and Austerity. Harun Sharif Sahab, Chairman Board of Investment. Federal Secretaries, Ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Foreign Office and on my own behalf, I wish to extend a very warm welcome to all of you at the inaugural session of the Envoys conference on economic diplomacy. At the outset, allow me to express my profound gratitude to the Ministry of Commerce and the Board of Investment for their excellent collaboration in making this event possible. A very special thanks to Abdul Razak Dawood Sahib and Chairman Harun Sharif for their role in envisioning and executing this joint endeavor. We are gathered here today to deliberate a matter of great importance and seek answer to some key questions. The world over, only those economies have prospered that have innovated, building ideas, knowledge, skills and resources to produce quality, cost-effective, value-added products that capture markets. Only those economies have forged ahead that have been receptive to ideas and innovations and are adept at tailoring them to their own needs. To do so in a flat, globalized world necessitates becoming part of the global production chain. If Pakistan is to develop on a sustainable basis, if Pakistan is to break the begging bowl once and for all, if we are to become an integral part of the global value chain, then we must better leverage our diplomatic machinery and harness our regional and global linkages in pursuit of national development agenda. Economic diplomacy is the need of the hour. Our government has placed economic revival and growth at the highest pedestal of its reform agenda. Our manifesto speaks of roadmaps on politico-economic diplomacy, on enhancing exports, boosting investments, and alleviating poverty. Our 100 days performance attests to the priority we attach to it. In these 100 days, we've been able to secure support from key allies and avert imminent balance of payments difficulties. But crisis aversion neither was nor will be good enough. We have to do much better. The people of Pakistan expect this of us. Pakistan's innate potential and inherent prospects, its immutable resilience and immense resources demand this of us. This conference today focuses on investments and trade which are critical to our economic diplomacy agenda. Equally important is the need to scale up and prudently utilize development assistance flows and increase remittances through enhanced employment opportunities abroad for our labor force. We have no reason for pessimism. Consider these facts. In terms of size, Pakistan is equivalent to France and Germany put together, or 3 times the size of Great Britain. Pakistan is the 6th most populous country with the 3rd largest number of English speakers and a growing number of Chinese and Arabic speakers. More than half of our population is less than 25 years of age. This means that in terms of sheer demographics, Pakistani youth outnumber some 179 members of the UN. With 194 universities, Pakistan has amongst the largest number of doctors, engineers, and trained professionals who feed into the economy of not just Pakistan, but economies the world over. At nearly 9 million, Pakistanis constitute the 6th largest diaspora. Although now water-stressed, Pakistan has the largest irrigation system. We rank among the largest producers of cotton and dairy products. We have among the world's largest reserves of coal, salt, and other minerals. Our variegated geography is among the most diverse in the world, ranging from some of the highest peaks to forests, deserts, and virgin coasts. Much of the subterranean wealth has yet to be discovered. Finally, in a critical part of the world, Pakistan affords overland route to 3 key regions and economic powerhouses: South Asia, Central Asia, China, and the Middle East. In terms of purchasing power parity, Pakistan is even today the 26th largest economy in the world. PricewaterhouseCoopers projects Pakistan to become the world's 20th largest economy by 2030 and the 16th largest by 2050. Goldman Sachs has identified Pakistan as one of the next 11 economies that will become drivers of global growth this century. And Pakistan is projected to be the next big thing in international tourism. Following exchange rate adjustments, our exports have been picking pace. Our GDP is expected to cross the 38 trillion rupees mark this year. Pakistan is host to some 200 multinationals operating in almost every sphere of economic activity that have seen good profitability. In the next phase of CPAC, a chain of special economic zones is set to be established across the length and breadth of the country. These statistics beg the simple question: why have we not been able to do a better job at attracting foreign investment, diversifying our export base, and raising our trade profile? They challenge us to find ways and means to power up our performance by taking all measures necessary to rectify the deficiencies. Unarguably, comparable countries with a smaller base have done a much better job. Unquestionably, the war on terror, the security situation, and the chronic energy deficit have taxed our economy and diverted our attention. But these are now past us. A more promising future beacons, provided we prepare for it. I cannot claim to have all the answers. Perhaps no one can. While we need to put our heads together to maximize the outcomes and synergize our efforts, allow me to share my 3 key messages with you. Firstly, we view this Envoys conference not an end in itself, but as the beginning of an honest and result-oriented process among our concerned ministries, our envoys, and our public and private sectors. Secondly, the Foreign Office respects and understands the role of institutions. We neither have the intent nor the capacity to assume that role. What we do have is a set of skills and a vantage point which we feel can add to the strength of other ministries. We feel Pakistan's national interest and our respective mandates will be best served if we pooled our skills and resources, benefit from yours, and place ours at your disposal. Thirdly, while pooling expertise and resources, we need to evolve genuine partnerships and build real synergies within departments, with the private sector, academia, and research community. Only then will outcomes be scaled up and tangible benefits accrue to the people of Pakistan. We must address and overcome constraints in terms of processes, products, and capacities. We must develop, act, and deliver as one government. Around the world, and more pertinently in our own region in Asia, we've seen countries come out of dire economic conditions, lift their people out of poverty, and achieve sustained socio-economic growth. They have done so by attracting investments from abroad, initially from their own diasporas established overseas. They have put their economies on a sustainable path by focusing on foreign exchange earnings through value addition and export-led growth. There is no reason for Pakistan to lag behind. I'm confident that this conference will be able to produce insights and come up with an action plan of implementable recommendations. I wish you all every success in your deliberations. Thank you.
I feel that the type of challenges that we all face in this world today, we all have to be able to work as a team. And so this is one of the objectives of this conference, is that we all put our collective strength together and be able to meet the economic challenges which we all know that the country faces. The economic situation we already know. I'll just highlight a few points on that. Unfortunately, our exports have been falling for the last few years and then only started to rise last year and are continuing to rise this year, not at the pace that I would be happy at, but it is, at least it is rising. The question now comes, what do we need to do? We have instituted in the Ministry of Commerce an export-led growth strategy. That strategy does not mean that we're not focusing on import substitution, but since this is an Envoys conference, I will concentrate my talk more on the export growth strategy. That is where all of you are fully involved. We've made a study of what is the current situation, and one of the things that it becomes quite apparent, and this is something that we want to get across to the envoys, and that is we cannot, if we are to dream of getting our export from the current 20 billion and move it up to 50, 100, 150 billion, then textiles alone will not take us there. It's not that the textile people are bad, it's just that the worldwide size of the textile industry is not big enough for us to take it. No country in the world has reached that level on textiles alone. So we're concentrating more on engineering, chemicals, IT, away from the traditional 5 exports that we've always been having. So this is an area that we have to focus on, and we've been having lots of meetings and are developing export strategies for each of our sectors. As the weeks and months unfold, each of these sectoral analysis will come forward. Right now, we are in the next few weeks, we will be putting forward an industrial policy. I've always felt that it is important for us, all of us, to have an industrial policy written out which clearly defines the basic parameters, and it will also state the areas of focus for exports, areas of focus for import substitution. We're also developing a strategy of how to get the global reach. Right now we're talking a lot about, if we're talking particularly engineering, it's focused on Africa. So now we in the Ministry of Commerce are saying, okay, let us now move more of our resources to Africa and less importance to the European Union. In this endeavor of getting out into Africa, we have to also be talking about FTAs. Now I want to particularly mention FTAs because our experience has not been too good. We are next to further our objectives, we have to be very careful on how we do it, whether it is in Asian countries or even African countries. I'd like to mention some good things that have happened and some not so good. I think the way the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Commerce got together and got the GSP Plus done was a good, was a very, very good example of how we did it. And it was done before our time with this government, and I was told that Nagmana Hasmi, you did a very good job, and you were there, and I would like to very much appreciate your efforts. The other good example that I've had was my recent trip to Japan, and the way Dr. Asad planned the whole thing, and the way we went, and we worked like a team. When we went to whether it was businessmen, whether it was their foreign office, their Ministry of Commerce, their institutions, we presented a face of one team, and that's the main emphasis that I want. What we're also looking for, and for those of you who are in countries where we can get a lot of technology, we are seeking assistance in upgrading our technology. We are seeking upgradation of our research capabilities.
It would be useful if I could share with you that government की इस वक्त economic priority क्या है, and how does the role of the foreign office and particularly the missions abroad, how does that tie in, and what from my perspective we would like to see coming in as support from our missions abroad. So Pakistan has been following a particular growth model for the last 30 years. It's a consumption-led, imported capital finance model. As a result, we've been hit by a recurring balance of payments crisis, and we end up looking for bailouts every 4 to 5 years. We want to move away from that. We want to move to a domestic resource mobilized, productivity-based, export-oriented growth strategy. And if you look at the basic equation of a balance of payments, I'm looking to increase my exports, I'm looking to increase our remittances, and I'm looking to increase my foreign direct investment. These are the three principal things that we are trying to drive. And it is in that context that I will be sharing my thoughts with you in terms of what contributions can be made by yourselves. Let's start with remittances. There are two different parts of it. One is the identification of opportunities, both in terms, both qualitatively and quantitatively. So we look at how much more money could be earned, how much more foreign exchange could be earned if we can place more people abroad, and that's obviously very important. But since you've got presence on the ground, an assessment or feedback in terms of what's happening in the domestic markets there, and what kind of opportunities are there in terms of skill upgrade, so that if we can make investments in skills here, how much greater return. My favorite example is a job in Dubai as a receptionist in a hotel. You got poor English, you'll get a 2-star hotel job and earn X amount of dollars. You are well groomed, you speak good English, you'll get a job at a hotel reception in a 5-star hotel and make 5 times more money. So both on the qualitative front as well as quantitative front, any feedback that we can get would be extremely useful. The second part, and this relates mostly to the Middle East, and I believe the UAE, our ambassador to UAE is here. Unfortunately, ambassador to Saudi Arabia is not here because that's the other big market, probably the biggest market. And that is identification of the problems being faced by the local community there, and I'm particularly emphasizing the relatively low income labor market. Those who are operating in areas where don't even have bank accounts, etc. How can we reach them better? How can we, what can National Bank of Pakistan and the other Pakistani banks which are trying to reach out to them, how can we connect better? That's a major emphasis right now. And our missions in the Middle East, if they can provide any help, guidance, facilitation, this would be very high on my priorities right now. Second, investment. What we have tended to do is we look at all investment in generic terms. So we talk of FDI as if every FDI dollar is the same for us, but it isn't. So what you need to know in terms of which are the type of companies, businesses with whom you should be building relationships, encouraging them to come to Pakistan, or identifying the names to send back to the Board of Investment of people that they should be reaching out to. It's again the top priorities: export dollars, job creation, technology transfer. So if I was to give you an example, a company which runs resorts for tourists would be far more interesting for me compared to a company which will come and develop a luxury accommodation in Karachi or Lahore or Islamabad. Which are the companies which can have significant technology transfer potential? So somebody like an Alibaba in China becomes absolutely vital for me, far greater interest than a Chinese company which will come in and put in a power plant, as an example. So we will do this in a more organized fashion. We should have the Board of Investment identify for you the sectors which are the highest priority for us in terms of seeking foreign investment, and those lists should be shared with our missions abroad so that they know exactly which sectors. I was just telling you broadly that we need to get much more focused than simply saying we want somebody who wants to invest in Pakistan. Another important role that can be played by our missions abroad, particularly those in the West, in the context of CPEC, there is a very widespread feeling amongst Western envoys here in Pakistan that Pakistan is closed for business for Western companies, and that we are only interested in working with the Chinese, which is not true. there's a lot of misinformation out there also. So it is very, very important to dispel this notion, and both yourselves directly as well as your recommendations back home for us as to what kind of messaging and what kind of action should we be taking, which help dispel this impression amongst non-Chinese investors. It's actually not just Western, the Japanese investors, and Razak, the Japanese ambassador, the outgoing ambassador, had come to see me yesterday, and he said your visit had a very, very positive impact, because in their mind we have written off the world except China. So that's the other aspect of investment that I want to talk about. Third is on the finance side, finance, investment, whatever you want to call it. And again, this is the Middle Eastern countries are particularly important in this, but not the only ones. Almost every country has now got these sovereign wealth funds, and they have become massive investors. Absolutely, they are huge. I was in Qatar recently, $450 billion, a pretty small country, $450 billion there. The Saudis have set up an investment fund. The Abu Dhabi one was one of the earliest ones. They probably got more than $1 trillion of investment surplus sitting there. Many other countries, Malaysia has got one, Singapore has got one. So these are a very, very important relationship. And similarly, as Harun was saying, the Islamic Development Bank is a very, very important relationship for me. The Asian Development Bank, AIIB, these are all now vital relationships. Of course, everybody recognizes World Bank and IMF, but these are very, very important relationships for us. And therefore, having some interaction there and being able to provide some kind of an information flow back here. The last part is trade. And I've had a few experiences of going abroad, and inevitably you meet people from the missions there, and in most cases I've met the commercial people also, and you can see a clear difference. And I won't name the particular case, but I've already seen the difference in one particular case where the envoy was very, very closely tracking trade issues, identifying the opportunities, feeding information back, and it's had an impact. It's already resulted in a differential. So that is obviously the other thing. In virtually every country, Pakistan's export potential is far greater than the reality of the export. So these are the areas which I could think of where our missions abroad could play a very, very important and critical role.